The biggest buff Revenant has ever received is the relic effect, which changes dying incantations on seals. While at first I kind of ignored it, recently I've begun to see how much this mechanic has fixed Revenant. See, for a while the argument always was, if you want to play an incantation caster, why not just play as Recluse? And that was mostly true. Recluse has the same scaling and faith as Revenant and has a respec relic which gives her more faith, but she can also recover FP using her ability, and she has cocktails which can be incredibly powerful compared to Revenant's rather weak summons. With this change, Revenant can now start with incantations that are actually pretty good, while Recluse can't because she doesn't have a seal. The reason this completely changes things for Revenant as a faith caster is that she can now make entire builds around one category of incantation, and have an incantation that fits that criteria from the beginning. While with Recluse, you have no guarantee you even find an incantation that you want at all, so building around a class of incantations that you might not even find is just pointlessly risky, when you could just play as Revenant instead, making her actually the best incantation caster in the game. And because of this, I've been having so much more fun with Revenant than I ever have. I've always been a Revenant main, but now that I don't start with that terrible seal, and I don't feel like I'm picking an inferior faith caster, I've been using her even more. Because of this, I wanted to make a list ranking all of the starting incantation builds from worst to best, mainly for fun, so I just had a reason to use all of the incantations extensively and not just one specific incantation at a time, which we'll get to later. But also because one day, one of the better builds might get nerfed, and it would be nice to know all the strengths and weaknesses of the worst builds. I just want to say that this list is based off my experience in Deep of Night, but this should be applicable to base game too, besides the one build which I will mention. In 6th place is Strength Revenant. Okay, so this isn't really a build. I kind of had to include it. Look, don't get me wrong, this relic effect is crazy good. It gives Revenant more strength than Undertaker while barely affecting her faith scaling. Find a good strength faith weapon and now you have a really good backup weapon if you run out FP. But it's not really designed to be built around. This is the only one entry that cannot guarantee you anything. So in the base game where you can't use Dormant Power Helps Discover Colossals or anything like that, it's just unreliable, and in Deep of Night, running Strength Revenant is just a terrible idea, because she just does not have the abilities and passives designed for it. But there is some potential here. At 5th and technically last place, we unfortunately have Dragonfire and Dragon Communion incantations. The Dragon Communion incantations are easily my favourite incantations from Elden Ring, so it really hurts to put them at the bottom. But I have a few problems with them. But first off, let's start with things I like about it. Dragonfire is extremely good at crowd control, and some of the Dragon Breath incants are really good at dealing status. The Dragon Name versions of these incants also get huge damage increases, which make them worth using. Also, Theodoric's Magma is just ridiculous on this build. If you find this incant and you have the right effects and a big enough FP bar, it's arguably one of Revenant's best builds which you can get your hands on. And Dragonfire is very good against Sentient Pest. Since it has a very large area effect and the pests have 2 hitboxes, possibly 3 in Epidarch occasionally, Dragonfire is very good at hitting all of the hitboxes, where you can either melt a single health bar or damage 3 at once. So why at the bottom of the list? First, most of the Dragon Communion incants just eat through Revenant's huge FP bar like it's nothing, and it turns Revenant into a machine that churns through Starlight Shards. Not only is it a necessity to have some way to increase your FP, or to reduce how much FP you're consuming on one of your relics, but you also need to find these buffs in the run as well. Because of this, early game you will probably dump your whole FP bar in one attack and have nothing left to offer to the fight afterwards. Next, unlike with other builds in this list, Dragon Communion incants aren't all focused on doing one thing. Some do fire damage, some do magic damage, some do physical damage, some do status build up. So focusing your whole build on doing one thing really well becomes a lot harder. So I just tend to use fire attack power up if there are no Dragon Communion buffs available. And finally, the good Dragon Communion incants are just really rare. I feel like I barely see any of them, so it's very likely you'll just be working with Dragonfire for the entire run. So unfortunately, it's just too hard to make it work compared to others on this list, but when you do make this build work, it is pretty powerful. It definitely has some really good potential, and if you want my opinion on it, which I'm assuming you did, that's why you clicked on this video, I would really appreciate seeing this build just ran more, maybe in lower depths, or just for the fun of it. I never see people starting with Dragonfire, and it's kind of a shame. I really do like these incantations a lot. Our 4th place is Wrath of Gold and Holy Incantations. Now, Wrath of Gold is a monster when it comes to raw damage. I'm getting nearly 1k against a dummy in the training range, and that's without any buffs the expedition could give you. And in terms of how good each incantation is individually, it might even be second best on this list. But the build has some downsides. Just like the Dragon Communion build, Wrath of Gold just eats so much FP early game. But on top of that, Wrath of Gold is an incredibly risky incantation to use. It requires you to be very close to the target for it to hit, but Revenant has one of the smallest health bars in the game. Her whole kit is designed for you to stay at at range, so using it fully charged is just very difficult. Another huge problem with this build is that Wrath of Gold is not a fundamentalist incantation, which means if you decide to build around them for other holy incantations, Wrath of Gold will not be getting that buff, making it the only build on this list where aiming for buffing a specific spell category is not the main priority, and instead you just want to be buffing the element holy. However, I put it above the Dragon Community Incants as they have a lot of criteria to hit. However, the Holy Incants just have one. Find either Discus of Light or Triple Rings of Light. They don't feel as uncommon to find as the Dragon Community Incants, and once you find one, your range problem is solved, and the FP drain is much smaller per cast. And they are both very powerful spells. You could also just end up finding the Halo Scythe, and since you built around holy attack power, this weapon will be buffed by that too, and this is probably one of the best weapons in the game right now. So as the conditions are less harder to hit and the damage is more focused around one element, so you can counter either Gladius or Night Aspect, it just makes Wrath of Gold and Holy Incants a better build. But due to Wrath of Gold being so risky and the chance that you might not even find a safer and consistent replacement, it gets 4th place. If the starting incant was Discus and not Wrath of Gold, then it would be way higher on the list and in competition for top 1 in my opinion. I do want to say though that this is just all my opinion from using Wrath of Gold and Deep of Night. In base game where taking damage is not that big of a deal, I would probably put it above the next entry, but I don't want to make an entire second list for the base game just to put Wrath of Gold one spot higher, so it's gonna go here. At 3rd place is Lightning Spear and Dragon Cult Incantations. Lightning Spear is a very inoffensive incantation. It isn't a spell for clip farming, but rarely will it ever feel bad. It has good range, is a charged incantation, so the Godfrey icon affects it. Lightning is a very powerful element, and there's no reason you can't win the entire game with just this incantation. And the Dragon Cult Incantations are pretty solid, though none of them will really replace Lightning Spear against the Night Lord unless someone is taking a crit, and you can get in some free damage. But yeah, it's kind of just good. We are already at the point where I don't have much bad to say about the builds. I guess the projectile of the Lightning Spear can be a little slow, and against horse enemies it can be hard to hit them, because the lock-on targets the horse rider and not the horse, so it can sometimes miss. That's really its only downside I have for it. It's the plain, bland cereal of the incants. You see someone using Lightning Spear and it's just like, okay, they're using Lightning Spear, there's better, but there's also worse, what can you really say? And maybe for today, we can just work with a Lightning Spear for a Night Lord weak to lightning, just like some mornings you might just need some plain regular cereal to recover from the last day. Where is this going? At 2nd place is O Flame and Giant's Flame Incantations. Okay, now, some people are going to say, didn't you say that Wrath of Gold was bad because it has a short range? Now you're ranking O Flame this high even though it has an even shorter range? Okay, yes, but shush, hear me out. O Flame is a much quicker incantation compared to Wrath of Gold. Uncharged is not like the biggest difference in the world, but fully charged it's night and day. You can get in, do huge damage, and be ready to dodge very quickly. O Flame takes a bit more skill to use than Lightning Spear, but it just melts enemies so much quicker. But also, the Giant's Flame incants just rain from the skies. I very rarely go around without seeing a single Giant's Flame take thee, or a flame fall upon thee, or flame of the fell god. But if you want a safer run, you could swap out all of your improved Giant's Flame incants with safer but less effective improved fire attack power. Then you're buffing any fire incant, including Black Flame and Flame Sling. And I have not gone a single run with Revenant where I have not found any of the Giant Flame incantations I mentioned, plus Black Flame or Flame Sling. It's basically guaranteed to find one of them, and I'm so confident that if you do an entire run of this game where you play optimally, get dormant powers, check the merchant, and do at least 2 seal checks, and you don't find a single one of those incants I mentioned, then I will personally give you a big fat apology and beg for forgiveness. However, if you just juice O Flame, it is easily good enough to win with, genuinely a DPS machine. And if you do find a Giant's Flame incant, then enjoy cooking bosses medium rare. It's a huge counter to anything weak to fire, which makes Dragon Community incantations look even worse. While I think the Lightning Spear may be a slightly better incantation than O Flame due to its safety, I think you should just grow a pair of balls and try this instead. If you find a Giant's Flame incant, you can just go back to damage that is even better than Lightning Spear, has a much larger AoE, but is still very safe. And in 1st place, it's Beast Claw and Bestial incantations. Yeah, not even Bestial incantations, just Beast Claw. This build is just on another tier to the rest of them. You really don't need to run anything else besides Beast Claw Revenant. Because what does Beast Claw not have? It's chargeable, it has good range, it's bred so it's good for crowd control. It's easily the most FP efficient incantation on this list. Its damage is crazy, and because you already have the best damn incantation in the Bestial class, you don't need to fulfill any condition. And arguably the hardest part about this game is just getting started. In Deep of Night especially, you want to make sure you're getting through that early game as well as you can, because that's when your build is at its worst and you don't have any effects or any good weapons or any good buffs, and Beast Claw just does that perfectly well. It makes the early game a breeze. The only downside I guess you could say is that it has no counter potential to any of the Night Lords, as none of them are specifically weak to physical, but there are a lot of Night Lords who are weak to slash, and I'm pretty sure Beast Claw does do slash. I checked that on the wiki. You know, actually let me check right now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does slash damage. It's just a genuinely super consistent and powerful incantation. As of right now, it's definitely the Revenant meta, but maybe something gets nerfed or something else gets buffed. And I think all of these builds, besides Strength Revenant, can find a use or a reason to be ran. Who knows, with a few fixes, the Dragon Community Incants could easily be the #1 Revenant build next patch. I certainly hope so, I love these incantations so much. But if you disagree with my placements, let me know in the comments. There is so much to this game, and there's always something I could be missing. Wait, that's not the right thing to say at the end of a tier list video? What should I say? Okay. I am objectively correct, and if you disagree, you are wrong. Did I do that right?